All right. Welcome to another episode of geekoutdoors.com. And so on today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to create a YouTube thumbnail for beginners. I'm going to do this live. And so if you are on this particular stream, you can ask questions. And as I'm doing this, this is primarily going to be for people who've probably never done this before. And so I'm going to be showing you the basics of actually creating a thumbnail for your YouTube channel. And I'm going to be using a specific software called GIMP. So this is a free and open source image photo editing tool. It's a really great tool that will really allow you to create some really amazing designs or even basic designs. And this is what I use to create most of my thumbnails, but I'm also going to be showing you some other things as well. And so let's go ahead and get into the computer. And I'm going to head over to my desktop. So you see right here, and you should be able to see my desktop from this. Okay, and here is the first thing we're going to do. We're going to actually talk about like the pieces of software that you're going to need, and also some other items that you're going to need to build out your thumbnail. And as you get better with this, well, it'll basically be really easy for you to create thumbnails for your YouTube channel. So I'm moving things around. So I'm gonna move this over here real quick. Hey, my Sea Prince, thanks for joining, man. Great. All right. And so the first piece of software is GIMP. Okay, so if you never heard of it, it's the new image manipulation program. This is available freely on all platforms. So whether you're using Microsoft Windows, Apple Mac, or Linux like I do, this is freely available. Now, I will say if you want to create really stunning, thumbnails, I would say Canva is the best place to go to do that. Okay, and it's great for beginners because they put a lot of amazing built-in tools for you, even if you're not a designer. But the reason why I'm showing you how to do this on GIMP is because with a lot of these programs that are all online based, if you don't have access to their website, then you can't access all your designs. So that's why I'm showing you how to do this, because if you're able to learn how to do this in an image editing program, then not only are you going to be able to do it without the internet, but most importantly, you're going to learn the skills to actually do this. So if you decided to use other imaging editing programs like Photoshop or any numerous image editing programs, they work very similar. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to need to do is we're going to need to get some images or backgrounds. Okay, and the site that I use is Pixabay. So go to pixabay.com. This is practically where I get all my images, and you could get pictures, vectors, graphics. There's even videos in here as well, and even music. And all of this is free for you to use, and you don't have to worry about any licensing issues with this, at least for the vast majority. If there are any type of licensing issues where they need attribution, I think those will be noted. But at least for me, whenever I'm using Pixabay, like 99.9%, it's all free. I've never even had to do attribution, at least for the ones that I use. Okay, and so the ones that I'm going to show you is a YouTube logo. Okay, so if you go here, just type in what you're looking for. I'm also going to use a subscribe button, and here's the background that I'm using. But they have so many different images and vectors you can use, over 2 million. But at least for me, this is what I'm going to use for this tutorial. And then another thing I'm going to use is this website, a Pixlr. So pixlr.com. And this is an online image editing tool. And so that's why I said it's important, if you learn how to use an image editing tool like GIMP or Photoshop, then you'll be able to use practically any other photo editing or image editing tool. And the reason why I'm going to show you Pixlr is for a very specific purpose. Okay, so that's what we're going to be working with today. And so I've already downloaded all these things. And let's go ahead and start off with Pixlr because it's here for a very good reason. It has an amazing tool that I use, and it's going to be a lot easier for people who aren't really great with image editing. And so I have a picture here of my face, which I am going to be using. And let me check and make sure you can see it on my stream. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to bring this into Pixlr. And hey, reaping what you sow. Great, great that you're here, Lewis Cox Studios. All right. Thank you, y'all, for joining. Okay. And once I get all these things ready, then we're going to head over to GIMP, and then we're going to be doing the thumbnails there, okay? So let's go ahead and start with Pixlr. I think this is a really great tool for people who want to do image editing, very similar to Canva, very powerful, easy to use, okay? But there's one main reason why I use Pixlr. They have this really cool option here called remove background. Now, this is great if you have a picture where you want to remove the background. Like for example, this picture right here, I just basically took the picture in front of a wall, and what I want to do is remove all this stuff in the background so then it's transparent, and a lot of people do that. Now, tools like Canva, they do offer this, but as far as I recall, you have to pay for this. You have to use the paid version. And Canva, the free version, is absolutely amazing, but there's some things that they don't offer for free, okay? Whereas with Pixlr, it does offer this feature for free, and it works really, really well. And there's many other things that it does as well. So in my opinion, if you're looking for the best image online editing tool, I would say Pixlr. If you want the best for graphic design, producing thumbnails, anything for online tool, Canva and Pixlr, these two cannot be beat for those types of things, okay? So let's go ahead and go to remove background. And all you have to do is open image. And then I'm gonna go ahead and open that face picture that I had, okay? And here's why, okay, that didn't work. Let's go ahead and try that again. So if that doesn't work, we just go to default. All right, I'm gonna reload this and I'm gonna try one more time. And if not, actually, I think I know why. The browser that I'm using doesn't work really well, okay? And so let's go ahead and try another browser, okay? I am using Chromium browser, and sometimes that has problems, okay? So let's go here to Pixlr, okay? So let's try this again. And if this doesn't work, I do have a video that I've already done to show you how to do this, but there it is. So it's because my browser. So don't use Chromium if you want to use these tools. If you don't know what Chromium is, don't worry about it. If you're using the regular version of Chrome, you shouldn't have any problems, okay? So as you just saw here, the background remove feature of Pixlr did this automatically. This is why this is so awesome, because if you wanted to remove a background using an image editing tool like GIMP or Photoshop or any of these other ones, you do have to spend some time in doing that, and it's pretty difficult in my opinion, especially if your background is really complex. But with tools like what Pixlr has here, they have a really great AI that does this for you. And so I think this works really well. You can fine tune as well, but I'm gonna make this easy. I'm gonna go ahead and download this, okay? So I'm gonna save this. And it's been saved, and now I have my background, I have my image, my face with the transparent background. Okay, so that's the first thing. And you don't have to do this if you don't want to, but I think for a lot of people, when they're creating thumbnails, they want to have their face on there. And also, just to let you know, YouTube, the algorithm likes to see people's faces, okay? And so that is another thing that you should have. Okay, so making sure that that's there. All right, so now we have our background, our transparent background for a face image, and we assume that you've already downloaded all the images you needed. And because of that, we can now move over to GIMP. All right, so let's just assume that you've already downloaded GIMP, okay? You've already downloaded GIMP, you've already downloaded your images, and now we're gonna go ahead and move over to the part where we're gonna create the actual thumbnail, all right? So I'm gonna move this chat over. All right, so Shamel Serious, hey, hello, thanks for joining, Shamel. So now I actually have my chat window in front, and I have GIMP in front right here. So hopefully all of you could see that. Let me make sure. All right, so all of you could see that. If you're having problems seeing that, let me know. And Shamel is asking, is GIMP free? Yes, it is free. It is free and open source. It's available on all major operating systems. So that's why I'm showing you this. And so for a lot of people who are just starting out image editing, I would say most people are going to use something like Pixlr or Canva, right? But for people who really want a lot of flexibility and powerful features, then an image editing tool like GIMP is awesome. Now, obviously, if you do want to do this at a more professional role, then you're going to pay for a tool like Adobe Photoshop, okay? But if you learn how to use GIMP, which I would say I think everybody should learn this. If you learn how to use GIMP, you could pretty much use any image editing tool, and GIMP is very similar to Photoshop. Okay, so that's why that's so important. All right, so let me see. Let's go back here. Okay, so hopefully all of you could see my screen, and if not, just let me know. But this is the first thing we're going to do. We're going to go up here to File, and then we're going to say New. Okay, so this is important because for YouTube, the dimensions, the thumbnail dimensions are important. And currently, the thumbnail dimension is 1280 by 720. This could change in the future. But there are templates available in GIMP. So if you use this drop down, there is already a template available for 1280 by 720, which is 720p. That'll give you the exact dimensions that you need for YouTube. So there it is. And I already had a background color before. That's why that showed up. And reaping what you sow is we can. Yeah. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to add another background. And I'm assuming reaping you sow that you're saying you could see my screen. And so I have like two screens open. So I'm doing the actual tutorial on this screen, but I'm also checking to make sure that everything is running on my stream on that window. Okay, so if I'm looking over here, it's because I'm making sure the stream's running. All right, so so now you see that there is a background, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another background. So I'm going to go down here, and there is a create new layer and add it to the top of the image. So I'm going to add that. You could name it whatever you want, but right now I'm just keeping things simple, and I'm going to say OK. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to remove that original background that was there by default. Okay, you could either right click on your mouse and delete it, delete layer, or you could come down here. There's an X for delete this layer. So I'm going to delete that, and now we have our transparent background. Now you could start putting things in to your actual image editor and build out your thumbnail. So we had these parts right here. We had our background, our face with the transparent background. We also have some logos as well. And we're going to add some other elements like text in here. So I'm going to pull these elements in here. Okay. If you want, you can just select multiple, but I'm going to put them in one by one. So you kind of see the order of things, because if you're brand new to using an image editing tool like GIMP, or Photoshop, it is a complex tool. So there is a learning curve, and there's things called layers. Okay, so I'm not going to show you everything. I'm just going to show you the basics so that you could actually create your thumbnail. Okay, and so I'm going to get into some of the things about how layers work as well. So I'm going to bring these things in here, and I'm going to explain to you what these layers are, so then you kind of understand that. So, oops. So let me pull these in here. All right, so hopefully you could see that I have my face in there, and I'm going to put in this thumbnail, and things should start looking weird, and we'll fix all of those things. Okay, all right, so now we have all our elements in GIMP. So now let's go ahead and talk about layers. Okay, because this is really important. Layers is, in a lot of ways, it's just basically different parts of your images. Okay, so I'm trying to explain it in real general terms. And what's great about layers is you could move things around. Okay, like for example, we have our background element, right? So whatever is at the bottom right here, this is actually at the bottom of your entire GIMP, your entire design. Okay, so basically anything above that in these layers is going to be above it. Okay, now in this case you can move things around. Like say for example you wanted this background or whatever image it is to go up, above something else. You can use this up arrow, okay, and it moves it up. You see, so if I move that all the way up, it's going to block everything else below it. And similarly you could move back down. Okay, so that's how layers work, and it's very important because as you are learning how to create thumbnails, it'll be really important for you to learn how to use different objects, and most importantly, learn how to use layers. And I'm going to show you some other tools that'll make this a lot easier to understand once you use it. But that's layers, and so hopefully all of you understood that when you saw that. Okay, so you could move things around, it changed the order of where your images are. All right. And typically what I like to do is the background is always going to be at the bottom because obviously it is the background. It's going to be the element at the bottom of everything. And then normally I'll have my text at top. Okay, so that's normally how I have things. And the face is almost always going to be above the background. So if you have your background above everything else, unless you have like a transparent background, it's going to cover everything. All right. And there's another thing you can do. You see right here on the left, there's this eye feature. So that means whether it's visible or not. Okay. So this is really important because, you know, sometimes you want to hide stuff. All right. And the reason you want to do that is maybe you want to manipulate an image, as I'm going to show you here, and you don't want all these things to block everything. Okay, so that's a very important thing. So as I'm doing this, you see how I'm doing that, you know, or why I'm doing that. Now there's many other features with GIMP, but in this case, I want to make it super simple for people to understand and create their very first thumbnail using this. So my C prints is saying layers are like an infinite number of sheets of glass on top of one another. Yes, thank you so much, my C prints. That is a great analogy. And yeah, it's like that as well. Okay, so just think of it that way. And there's many other ways you could think about it, but that is a great analogy. But hopefully by me showing you this, that makes sense. And so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to adjust my face, okay? Because it's a little too large. And it's, as you recall, see, I had all these elements there. So right now I'm going to hide those so that I could work on this element. And so the first thing that I want to do with my face image is I want to make it smaller. I don't want it to be super huge and cover the entire background. So make sure that you have this particular layer selected, and you know it's selected because you see these borders around it, and it's also highlighted here, you see. So make sure you're on the right layer. Then the second thing you want to do is go here on your toolbox right here on the left, click on it, and if you hold your mouse down right here, click it and hold it down, there's a bunch of other functions here. It's multi-function, okay? I don't particularly like this because before it was a lot easier, but it's there, okay? So what you have to do is go over here, hold down your mouse, you know, on your right click, and then you could move your mouse to the tool or the feature that you want to use. Okay, so in this case, I want to scale. So I have it on scale. So now that you have on scale, you select your image, and now you're able to scale your image. So if you want really precise scale, you can do this by just adjusting the width and height values. Or you could move things around like this. All right. Now, if you want to keep things consistent, you could also hold down the shift key. Okay. If you wanted to do it that way. Actually, you don't have to hold down the shift key. It actually warps things. So before you had to hold down the shift key, but you see that? It keeps the scale proportion. And if for some reason I did hold the shift key, you know, it could warp things. See? So when you do it this way, it makes it a lot easier. I think before you didn't have a choice but to hold down the shift key. So hopefully that makes sense. So if you are happy with that, you like that size, you could simply click on scale, okay? Or you can reset or readjust. I'm gonna click on scale. And another thing that's important is if you wanna keep the dimensions proportional, okay? So basically if you change the width, it'll also change the height as well so that you don't have these weird warping effects. There's this lock key right here. Okay, so it'll lock the width and the height. So we'll go ahead and scale. All right, so now we have our image scaled. And if you want to move things around, if you go here, there's this move tool, okay? And then we'll move this over here. And so a lot of things that I'm explaining it in my terms. And so I am not a professional graphic designer. So for anybody who's watching this and saying, yeah, that's not the correct terminology, I know. So I'm explaining this to people who are not designers, okay? But if you did have the correct way of saying it, you know, please leave that in the comments area below for people who are really good at these and or are professionals, okay? And so I have my image here. That's the first thing. And now we're going to do the same thing to our other elements. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this back on. Here's my YouTube logo. We'll do the same thing. I'm going to go ahead and scale it. So I'm going to do it right here, scale. And as I'm going through this, I will show you some other things later. Okay, but I'm just showing you the basics right now. Okay, so here's YouTube. And I'm going to bring this in here as well. We use the scale right here as well. All right, so that's scale. Okay, so there's subscribe. And now what we're going to do is we're going to add some text elements. So if you want to add text, and as I stated before, normally text is going to be on my top layer because I want the text to be above everything else normally, okay? So I'll go down here to text. You see that? Text tool. And you can choose the type of font that you want to use. Okay, there's a variety, a large variety of fonts, but I already have a font I'm going to use. Here's the size. And you don't have to worry about all these other things. There's color and stuff here as well, but I'm just showing you the real easy way. So once you've selected text, let's go here and just type it in, okay? So right now this text is the color red, and here's the size, and here's the font. But if you wanted to adjust the size, say you already typed it in and it's not what you want, double click on this twice and it'll select everything, okay? So that way, or you could even do Control A, but I just double click it. So that way you can adjust things that you've already typed. So here I'm gonna make it larger. Let's make it 130 pixels. All right, that's much larger. Cool. And what I'm also going to do is I'm going to change the color. So anytime you want to adjust the font, you know, you could go here and edit as well, edit text on canvas, or at least for me, I just go to the text tool and then I double click on it. See? And that's how you select it. At least for me, that's the easiest way. I'm going to change the color. Let's change that to white. All right, it's not white. And although that's hard to see, I'm going to show you why I did that because I want to show you some other things that you could do. All right. So YouTube thumbnail. So let's go ahead and add some other elements because now you've learned a few things really quickly. You understand how layers work. You understand how they work like with each other. You also learn how to make things visible and invisible. You also learn how to use some of these tools like scale, move, and we've also learned how to add text. So here are some other things that you could do. Like say, for example, this text right here. You want to add different effects so it makes things more visible. For example, say you want to add like a drop shadow. If you don't know what a drop shadow is, I'll show you. Or maybe you want to add an outline, okay? So let's go ahead and start off with the easy one. Let's go ahead and do a drop shadow. Now, before I do this, I'm going to basically make a copy of this text so I could go back to this original, okay? So I recommend that if you're just starting out and you don't want to mess things up, you can undo things, but sometimes it gets really messy. I normally make a duplicate of it if I want to test something, okay? So if you want to duplicate a particular layer, all you have to do is right click, and then you can do duplicate layer, or there's also a duplicate layer right here, all right? So now there's a duplicate, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this original, and I'm going to make that invisible. So in case I mess up on this one, and I made too many changes, and I want to go back to the original, I could simply go back to the original and then delete the one that I don't want and make a duplicate again. So that's a little tip for you right there. So now we have our thumbnail. Let me show you how the drop shadow works. So we'll go up here to filters. These are all the filters that you have. And I use this a lot. There's many other filters, but basically light and shadow is the one that I use practically all the time. So if you go down here, there's this thing called drop shadow. Boom, there's your drop shadow, you see? So it adds a shadow and it makes things, you know, more visible and it looks cool. It has this like 3D effect. However, you can make adjustments. There's many adjustments actually, but I'm going to show you some easy ones. So right now, the shadow, you could see it, but it's not really prominent. So that's because of opacity. If I increase that, you see that? Boom, becomes a lot darker. And there's some other things you could do as well. You can grow radius. So basically, there's this thing called blur radius, okay? So this increases that. You see that? And then the blur radius, if you increase it, it'll just make it blurry, more blurrier. If you go back, less blurrier, okay? So I'll show you why that's important later, but let's leave it like there, right? And also up here, X and Y coordinates, if you move this around, it'll move where this drop shadow is, the positioning, all right? So let's assume that, all right, I think that looks good for a drop shadow, okay? So that's the first thing. So by doing that, it makes your image, specifically your text, a lot more visible, and it does look cool. I do enjoy using drop shadows. But now, let's say that you did not want to drop shadow. Say you want to outline around your text. You see a lot of that on YouTube. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to delete this one. And as I just told you earlier, there's a reason why I kept the original. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this. I'm going to duplicate this one again, my original. And then I'm going to make it visible. So see? So that way you could go and start over. you know, without having to do Control Z or going back really far into your history. There is a history here. I can't remember where the history is, but there's a history to see all the changes you made. But basically, this is a lot easier if you do it this way. So now let's go ahead and create an outline around your text. So we'll go here and use the same filters, but things are going to be a little bit different. We'll go to drop shadow, but here's where it's different. You're going to turn your opacity up to 100%, or the max, which is 2 as it has here, okay? And here, we don't want the blur radius. What we want is an outline around the text. So what you need to do is put this down to 0, okay? And here's where the X and Y is important. You're going to move this exactly right there, okay? Now, if you don't want to do it manually, you could just put it in 0, 0, and it'll go directly, perfectly behind the text. So now that you have that, you could go here to grow radius and increase that. You see that? Boom. You now have an outline text. And another thing you could do, you could change the color of this text anytime you want. You could use the pre-selected text, adjust a lot of things here, or you could pick a color from your screen using the eyedropper tool. You see? So if I wanted this color, I could do that. Okay, but I'm going to do Control Z to go back, or actually reset. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. And there's also opacity as well. See, so if you want it lighter, if you go down to 0, it's basically transparent, okay, what you had underneath it. So there. So it showed you just 2 additional things, drop shadow, and also how to create an outline around your text. So I'm going to still keep that, but I'm going to make a duplicate of this original again, because I want to show you one more feature. And that is like blocks, okay, blocks of color and stuff, okay, that'll really help make your text stand out. And you've probably seen this in many other YouTube thumbnails. All right, so I'm going to add a background underneath this text, okay? So in this case, I want a black background, because black on white, it really makes things stand out, okay? So what you want to do is you actually want this element below your text layer. So that's why understanding layers is so important, as I talked about a little bit earlier. So make sure that you are below the text, okay, below your text, and then go here and add a layer, create a new layer, say okay. So now we're going to go ahead and add our object underneath our text. So now you're going to come here to rectangle select tool. And in this case, I'm going to put a square box underneath my text. So I'm just going to move it right here, right there. Okay. And then you could drop a color in here. Okay. So go back here. So this is the active color on the foreground. This is the active color in the background. And in this case, it doesn't matter. I'm going to choose this one. And I'm going to change this to black, all right? And now I'm going to drag this over here. You see that? I just drag this. Boom. There it is. Now, there's other ways you could do that, but at least for me, this is the easiest way. And then if you click away anywhere else, you know, because right now it's highlighted, it's not highlighted anymore. And there is your block of color underneath your text. And obviously, that does make things stick out, which is what we want, all right? And so that is another thing. And right now, this is a square, but what if you want it rounded? Okay, so I'll show you how to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and make this one invisible. And we'll go through the same steps. I'm going to add another layer. And then we'll do the same thing. But this time, you notice here, there's a rounded corners option. I'm going to select that. So let's do that. Okay. And then we'll just add this. Bam. But this time it's rounded. So as you can see, once you start using this over and over, it becomes really intuitive, you know, and simple. So I'm going to add one more. All right. I'm going to add another text here. So I'm going to duplicate this again. But this time I'm going to change the text a little bit. Okay. So in this case, it's duplicating the same place. So I'm going to move this around. Oops. Well, that's not the one I wanted. And sometimes you really have to play around with this. All right, so I'm going to move this around here. All right. And things might look really weird, but okay. So Now I'm going to change this text. So I'm combining all these things together. So as you probably saw from the beginning, if you never used GIMP, you probably didn't know anything. But from here, you probably learn a lot of stuff. And the reason I'm going step by step is I'm building up your skills. But all of this foundation, once you get to all these other things, you already have the foundation. So that's why I explain things really simply and at a very foundational level, because once you have that, then you can do a lot of other stuff. But it's really important to understand the basic foundations of how to use this tool. All right, so I'm going to say thumbnail video. All right, okay. And in this case, maybe you know, I want a different color. I'm not really good with color, okay? So if it looks weird, it's because I'm not a color person, okay? So I'm gonna add just a different background, okay? I'm just doing something really simple, but we're going through all the same steps that we did before. We're gonna add another layer, and then we'll go ahead and add another background. But in this case, let's go ahead and make this square, just to kind of like make things stick out, you know, so it's not all the same. So have some contrast in terms of like the design. Boom. All right. You see? So YouTube thumbnail videos. And then other things you can do to make things stick out even more is, you know, I showed you how to use the filter, you know, the drop shadow for the text. Well, you can do the same thing to objects like rectangles, right? So here, I'll go to filters, add a drop shadow, right? Let's go ahead and increase the opacity. Boom. You see that? So now that sticks out as well. So all of these things that we're doing, you know, as anybody who's been on YouTube, thumbnails are very, very important. And even though I am not a designer, just this, what I have here, it does look better than not having a thumbnail, or if you had no type of a image or design skills at all. Okay, so you don't have to be a design imaging expert. You don't have to go to school for this. You can use some of these features or some of these processes that I'm using, and then if you go look at other YouTube thumbnails, once you start doing this a lot, you could kind of figure out how they do this as well. Hey, Giz Anime, thanks for joining. Add a border. Yeah, you can add a border as well. There is this feature called, let me see, let me duplicate this. Did you want that around the text? Let's see. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Add a border around the image. So you could do this. I've done it as well. So I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this one, all right? And you can do it to other objects, not just this. So I have this one. And then I have it selected. You can go here to select. I'm sorry, was it edit? I can't remember which one. There is an option for, there it is. All right, so I'm going to right click. Alpha to selection. This is a little bit more complex, but Giz Anime is asking. Okay. And there should be an option here for add a border. I think it's under select. There it is. So under select, if you go down here to border, you can add a border. I do this on mine as well. Say okay. And then you can add a color. Okay. So this isn't going to look the best because we're just showing you an example. Then you move it over here. See? So now you have a border around your thumbnail. So thanks, Giz Anime. But this is a little bit more like, you know, there's a lot of things you could do. Okay, so that's another thing you could add. But I'm going to remove that because I think, or maybe I'll just leave it on there for now. So kind of see all that. All right. And so another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a drop shadow to the YouTube thumbnail. All right. We'll do the same thing here. And this doesn't look like perfect. Okay, but if you're just starting out, this is your first time designing thumbnails, this is one of the ways you can do it. And this probably isn't the best image to use, but that's just an example. And then one final thing you could do is you could actually add an outline around your image. Okay, so you've probably seen that. You've probably seen that on my my thumbnails. All right, so I'm going to move this a little bit to the left. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this layer. I'm going to hide the original. And then I'm going to go ahead and add another layer below that. Okay. So we'll add another layer below that. Oops, it's not what I wanted. We'll add another layer below that. And you see why I'm doing this. So this is to add an outline around your face, okay? Or whatever person or image that you have, you could add an outline around them. So I go here to the image, and I'm going to right click, go to Alpha to Selection. So it's selected. You see that? It outlines your entire image. So this is why you need to have a transparent image, because it only has this. It doesn't have the background element, okay? And then what you're going to do now is you're going to go back up here to Select. And before you saw me use border, but now you could use grow. So you could change the size. Here's the pixel. I have it as 4. So see, the outline got a little bit bigger. All right, you see that? And then you go down to your rectangle below it. Now you're going to drop the color that you want. In this case, I want a white color. Bam. There it is. And these are like the main things that I wanted to show you today. And about the only thing that was different was what Giz Anime asked for. Thanks for asking for that, Giz. Is the actual borders, because you see this in a lot of thumbnails, you know. Yeah, so Giz Anime said you should go to your sub channel, go over the thumbnails as well, and offer tips to improve them or what you like about them. Yeah, Giz Anime, I've seen other channels do that, review channels and stuff, but honestly, it does take me a lot of time to do that. And so I probably won't do that very often, okay? And everybody has different types of designs. You know, everybody has different likes and dislikes. And so that's why I'm showing you these things so that you could learn this yourself and then you could try it out yourself. Because that's really important, because your channel is different from any other channel. Even if you're doing the same type of topic, what works on one channel might not work for your channel. So this is why I have all these tutorial videos. That's why I'm showing you all these things so that you can do it yourself. Okay, and then test it out yourself. That is the most important thing. You have to experiment. Okay, so obviously something that's really, really important, you need to save this. It's very important, you know, save it. Okay, let me move this. Save this. All right, so I'm gonna save this as a YouTube thumbnail. YouTube thumbnail. Let's just say first YouTube thumbnail. And the great thing is, you know, you can actually use this as a template in the future, okay? Especially now that you know how to use layers and stuff. So say, for example, you're happy with this, okay? I don't like this logo, but this is just for illustrative purposes, all right? Let me see if, no, it's not gonna help. Let me see if I could change this a little bit more. I'm gonna go ahead and, I should have made a copy of that so I didn't follow my own advice. So let's try this again. I'm gonna go here and let's just make a simple outline instead of a drop shadow, okay? So say scale. And then we'll just add a simple outline around it, all right? So I'm gonna duplicate this again. And then we'll hide this one, okay? So we'll go ahead and filter. And now as you see, you know, as you get used to this, it becomes a whole lot easier. And at least with, you know, tools like GIMP, the more you use it, the better you get, which is really awesome. Okay, and I really do enjoy using this tool. And I can't believe it's free. Okay, so okay, that's pretty ugly. But we're not going for perfection here. I'll just leave it at that, all right? Okay, so now let's save it. And now, when you're ready to actually export this, you can go up here to File, Export as a JPEG, okay? And or PNG or PNG. Okay, so I think that's good. Let's just say, I'll say complete or something, so that you know that sometimes it gets confusing with the names. So I always use something like that so that I know it's the final one, all right? So now that you're done, you go here to your PNG file, bam, there's your thumbnail. And then you just use that for your YouTube videos. And that's it. That is how you create your thumbnail for beginners using GIMP from beginning to end. And hopefully, hopefully that helps you in some way. So let me go back to this right here. All right, so as you can see there, creating a thumbnail using a tool like GIMP, it can be very complex, okay? Because GIMP is definitely not I would say, a beginner level image photo editing tool. It's not. But if you learn how to use something like this, which is more complex, it does have a higher learning curve. There is so many things that you could do. I mean, I only know like the bare basics of how to use this tool. And as you can see, just by like what I showed you here, it's not really complex, once you learn all of these basic foundations. But just from this alone, you could create your own thumbnails. And what's great about it, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, since you are using a tool that's on your computer, if you don't have internet or something, right, you could still access all your designs. And as I stated a little bit earlier, you could create templates, okay? Like say, for example, this is the template that you want to use for all your YouTube thumbnails. Well, there it is. So you start out with this and you change a few elements, like maybe like the background, the text, to suit like whatever thumbnails you need for your videos. And at least for me, that's part of my workflow. It really keeps things efficient. I save a lot of time, and so I don't have to spend a lot of time like starting from the beginning. And so I highly recommend that once you learn how to use this and you learn a design that you like for most of your videos, save this GIMP file as a template. So then you could go ahead and reuse this over and over, and all you have to do is change a few elements. For most of my videos, I'm just changing basically my face, the background, and the text most of the times, okay? And so I definitely recommend that you create a template and experiment with a variety of designs. And as I pointed out a little bit earlier, I highly recommend that you go look at other YouTube channels to see how they've done their designs. And now that you know how to do this yourself, you could kind of like reverse engineer how they did their thumbnails and then try it out on your channel to see if that works for you. All right. And so let me see. Let me go here. All right. And so I'm going to answer a few more questions if you had any questions, or at any point we could always like go back to the thumbnail thing, right? And so let me see. Reaping what you sow. Thanks for this, bro. You helped me out so much. No problem. And Giz Animate, thank you so much for asking about the ad border. That wasn't something I was planning to show, but that really does help. So my Sea Princess says, I didn't know you could drag and drop the color. Yep. Yeah, I didn't know neither. A lot of these things I've never done before, but once I learned, it was awesome. Any tips on the subscribe button? In terms of creating a subscribe button, my Sea Prince? Not really. I mean, if you saw what I did, if you could create a subscribe button, you make a rounded background, you have your text on the top layer, right? And then you get like maybe this YouTube image, and then just drop it on there, okay? And then you could have a subscribe button, on your own, So let me go back to, let me see if I could create a quick one, okay? So it's probably not going to look as good as what's here, okay? But if you wanted to create a subscribe button, right? You could do that. So let's go ahead and go up here and let's go ahead and add another, duplicate this one, and we'll move this around. All right, so this is just an example, okay? And this is a very, very simple subscribe button, okay? This is not going to be advanced or anything, all right? But say, for example, you wanted to create your own subscribe button, or make it a little bit bigger so it's more visible, okay? And then, all right, and let me see, okay. Okay, so here we have our subscribe text. And then as y'all recall, we're gonna add a layer underneath that, all right? So we'll add a layer underneath it, okay? Actually, no, that's not right. No, that is right. Yeah. And we're gonna add our rectangle tool and make sure, I'm gonna use rounded corners. I like the rounded corners better. But as I said, experiment, So here's that, right? And like I said, this is a very simple one. And then we drop the color. So there's your subscribe button. So say, for example, you wanted to say subscribe, and then you could put another smaller text or something below, or add an image like they have here, okay? And then, with your text, you could add an outline around it, you know. You put your channel name if you want. There's a lot of things you could do, but this is for people who want to create their own subscribe button, okay? So say you just wanted a shadow, right? You could do that. Add a shadow, move it around. You see how I think that looks better? Or if you want an outline, which is, or you could even have it like this, right? Where it kind of like has this 3D look. You could do that. Or, you know, you could just have it as an outline as well. You just increase this right there. All right. And then, you know, you could also add a drop shadow. As you notice here, I'm just using very simple filters and stuff. I don't do anything fancy. You see? So it's very subtle, but it sticks out. And hopefully that helps. Let me see. All right, I had the wrong one. So hopefully that helped. I didn't mean to have that. It was the wrong scene, but that's how you would do a subscribe button. Did that help? My C prints, hopefully that did. I'm gonna save this. Okay. Well, you could put whatever dimensions that you want, my C prints, as long as it fits in here, okay? And if you were going to create a bigger one, right, you can. Okay, so you could create another GIMP file just for a subscribe button, right? And then whenever you export it, you know, you can, when you export, there was, oh, I'm sorry. What you can do is on your files, if you create a new file, let's say just for your subscribe button, you can adjust the canvas size, okay? So I just recommend playing with that, all right? And then find one that works for you. But I would say anytime that you have elements that you're going to reuse over and over, okay, I highly recommend that you create it as a template. So say, for example, you had a subscribe button, right? Then you would go ahead and create another GIMP file, call it subscribe button, okay? And then you can use that to create whatever subscribe buttons you want. And then you export that, and then you could bring that into your thumbnail template. So you always have that subscribe button available, all right? But that way, you know, you're not tied to, you know, your subscribe button being part of your thumbnail design. You can if you want, okay? So it's really up to you. So hopefully that helps. And so any other questions on this? Hopefully anybody's watching this. I do hope that this tutorial has been helpful for you, okay? Because, you know, whenever I think anybody who's starting on YouTube, there's a lot of different skills that you have to learn, okay? I mean, anybody who tells you that YouTube is easy, they've never done YouTube, okay? And if they've done YouTube and still think it's easy, well, my hat's off to them. Because you're gonna have to learn how to do video editing, you're gonna have to learn how to do image editing, some graphic design, you're gonna have to learn how to do marketing, then you have to do how to do copywriting. If you don't know what copywriting is, basically it's the art of writing to sell, which is part of marketing. So you have to learn copywriting so you could write headlines, titles, and stuff that gets people. And then from the marketing end, you have to learn a lot. You know, there's a lot of marketing, from traditional marketing to digital marketing. You know, you're learning stuff like SEO, search engine optimization, and then you're learning other things like content marketing. And then if you take this to other levels, you know, you're going to learn sales. And then at least for me, I'm a digital marketer, so I could use my videos and everything to run ads. So there's a lot of things that you have to learn as a YouTube content creator. And so one of these things right here, this is a very, very important thing. Learning how to create thumbnails is very important. Okay, so I think for most creators, okay, learning how to do really good thumbnails, and this is something that I'm always constantly learning and changing, okay? And if you're really good at it, well, the thumbnail is the first thing that people see. If your thumbnail is really good, it's on point, it's gonna get clicks, okay? Which is very, very important. And then obviously your title as well. But I would say the thumbnail is the most important. That's why I'm showing this to you, because I think if you are starting out on YouTube, it's very important for you to learn this skill and improve it over time. All right. Yeah, my C print is not on thumbnail, the active one on bottom right of screen. Oh yeah, my C prints, I got that from Pixabay. Okay, so that's where I got this subscribe button. All right. And if you don't want to design your own subscribe button, just head over to Pixabay as I showed you a little bit earlier. Type in subscribe button and it'll show a whole bunch of them, and it's free to use. And so, you know, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Okay, if there's already a better design, you want to use it, just use it. Reaping what you sow says it's hard without a team. Yep, reaping what you sow, it is hard without a team. Now, just as an aside, you know, I am a digital marketer, so I work for a lot of marketing agencies, and this is really hard because when businesses are doing this, they have large teams to do this. Okay, you'll have somebody who is the graphic design team, you have a copywriting team, and you have a video editing team, like professional level, and then you'll have your sales team. You'll also have your support team to surround that, but typically this is a job of an entire marketing agency to do this. All right, and this is a lot of work. So if you learn these skills, and this is just an aside, if you learn all these skills in YouTube and you're constantly going to be learning, I can guarantee you when you go out there, if you wanted to do work, there's so many different things that you could learn. Like if you really wanted to learn more about the image editing, you could get really good at that. Then you could go get a job or do gigs to do, you know, image editing work, photo editing, right? Or if you really get good with video editing, you could go out there and be a videographer. Or if you really want to pursue the marketing end like I did, you could take these skills over to the real world. And so that's one thing that I have mentioned in the past, but I just really want to reiterate that if you learn these skills, which YouTube has so many skills that you can develop, you could make a really good living from this. You know, to be honest with you, like that's how I was able to do what I do now because of YouTube. All those skills that I learned in YouTube, I applied this to the real world. So it's not just you making money from YouTube, because that is hard to do. As you're probably seeing, this is an entire business, okay? And so for people who are successful just from YouTube, I give them a lot of big thumbs up. It is not easy at all. And at that point, you're truly running it as a business. But all these many skills that you're learning, just in this example that I'm showing you, you could use those skills alone and hone those skills and then go out there and work in the real world if you wanted to, okay? So that's just an aside. Oh, hey, JGDIY, what is this program? It's GIMP, JGDIY. If you, you know, watch this video later, you could go back to the beginning and, you know, I talk about this. So here's the actual program. It's called GIMP. Okay, so if you want to watch this whole episode, you just go back to the beginning and you see everything that I talked about there. All right. And so did any of you have any other questions? Because I think the tutorial has been going on for, I don't know, about an hour now. And at the same time, usually because I have people here, I normally talk about a lot of other things. And this is something that I don't think I've ever done before. And it's, at least for me, this is very challenging to do a live stream while doing a tutorial in real time. But the reason why I wanted to show you this, as I stated earlier, is first and foremost, thumbnails are important. Secondly, I wanted to teach you a skill that you could actually apply to YouTube, but also out there in the real world. And then you'll get better and learn other ways to improve this. And then the third thing is, whenever I'm doing this live, I could actually have questions. You know, people could ask questions, we could have discussions. Hey, Frank in Texas, thanks for joining, man. Thanks for your help and advice. I am 70 and just starting. Wow. Now that is amazing. My C Prince is saying, as you move, the light level change. Yeah, my C Prince, I actually have a light right there. I have a box light. I have a box light here. And the thing is, I'm still learning about lighting. Okay, so my camera, I do have it on auto exposure. And so for people who use cameras, they'll understand, you know, but I am definitely not an expert on it. Okay, so if I really wanted to dial my my lighting, I would definitely have my exposure and stuff set manually, so then it doesn't change. So if you see like really different changes in my color, you know, brightness, it's a white color balance, it's because of my camera. It has auto adjustment. Okay, it's auto white balance and all those other things. Okay, so my C Princess said this is a brilliant video. Thank you very much. Okay, y'all. So first and foremost, Macy, hello from California. Okay, more people are joining. Okay, so it's almost an hour. Typically, I stop these videos in an hour, but I do want to leave it open for any more questions because this is, I didn't know whether or not this would be useful for any of you, but judging by the people who join and the feedback I got, this has been useful. And I don't know if I'm going to do many of these in the future because doing a live stream is already difficult for me. If any of you have ever done live streaming, it takes a lot of work, especially if you're going to do long live streams. And then the second thing is I'm doing the tutorial in real time. And so at least whenever you see all my thousands of videos, my 100 plus TubeBuddy tutorial videos, those are edited. So I have time to actually make mistakes, go back and fix things, In this case, this is live. So when you see me do something and I make a mistake, then yeah, I'm making a mistake. So this is real life tutorial right here, okay? Macy, thank you for sharing. No problem, Macy. Uthus 2000, can you see this? Yeah, Uthus, see what? I'm not sure. I can see you on the chat window if that's what you're asking. Okay, so anybody have any other questions? I'm going to leave it out there for a little bit longer because I definitely do want to help any of you who are actually on this chat, who actually took the time to come here on this chat. And from what I could tell, I think it has been helpful, and hopefully this will help other people later because obviously once this goes public, then other people will be able to see this. So, all right. So I'm going to shut this stream off. So let me, first and foremost, I always want to thank everybody who joined this stream, came in with ideas and discussions, and also anybody who ever watches this later on. I highly appreciate all of you. I'm very grateful for it. Oh yeah. Yep. Yeah. Your video saying about what you earned from a video is really inspirational. Oh yeah. Uthus saying, try to say something earlier and never posted. Thanks. Yeah. I'm not sure. I didn't see it before. And also, okay, my C, your videos. Okay. Yeah. Oh, thanks, my C Prince. Yeah, so my C Prince is talking about a video I did earlier this week where I talked about making, I think it was like $125 in 10 minutes, okay? And if you haven't seen that video, just go ahead and look at my videos. But YouTube, and I did post a video today talking about a YouTuber who made more than $50 million. YouTube is big, okay? And it's not just YouTube, it's just the internet as a whole. And if you are ever interested in doing this stuff, that's why I have this channel. If you've never done any of this before, I have over 1,000 videos and counting. It'll teach you everything that you would need, okay? If you've never done video editing, you'll learn it by the time you go through my videos. I have a lot of videos on OBS. I have a lot of videos on a lot of things that I would need myself, to do this stuff. And so hopefully all these videos help you become a creator. And at the same time, just as an aside, you might be seeing this more and more, especially here on YouTube. For YouTube, I would say experts, they're going to be talking a lot about the creator economy. Okay, and so this is where the whole world is heading. And so if you are not already a creator, I would highly recommend that you learn how to create, because this is the future. This is the next big push for everything that you're doing. So if you look at what you look at every day, you're looking at YouTube, you're looking at Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Discord, all of these, right? Those are all content, and all of it was done by content creators. If it's not an individual, it's a company, business, or it's a group. It's all the same stuff. And so if you are thinking about doing YouTube or any of these things, I highly recommend that you learn how to do that. Either for my channel, I would really greatly appreciate that, or any of the many other channels out there, because the future is going to be even crazier. And as I just mentioned a little bit earlier about the YouTuber, which is Mr. Beast, spoiler, he made $54 million in 2021. Now, that's not to say that you're going to make that, but there's a lot of people here in YouTube that I would, and not just YouTube, I'm sorry, anywhere on the internet. If you're a content creator, you could actually earn a living, and not a full living. You could earn side gig income, and most importantly, you could learn creative skills that actually help you throughout your life in many ways, in my opinion. Okay, so I just want to put that out there. So whenever you're watching my videos, The reason why I talk about being a creator so much is first, it changed my life. And secondly, I believe it could change your life in a very positive way. So that is it for this video. Thank you so much. If you actually had any other thoughts on this, leave it in the comments area below. And if you did want to see more of my tutorials, I have a whole bunch of them. I don't have one specifically for GIMP, but if you head over to my playlist, you see tutorials for video editing, a lot of video editing tutorials. You see tutorials for YouTube, for OBS, Linux. There's a lot of stuff there. Just head over to my playlist. So JGDOI, thanks all of you for joining today. I'm going to go ahead and sign off, and we'll see you